Yes, well, thank you for your patience, guys. This is what episode? How many of Lounge Lizards you guys done now? Two, one, first.
Well, the first one wasn't called Lounge Lizards. It was International Women's Day.
Right, okay. So this is episode 2 of Lounge Lizards, and I believe this is a platform you've put together by these lovely ladies here to help inspire, bring industry experts together. Well, a bunch of rascals up on stage tonight. But if you've been in nightlife, you would have come across them. You know, we've got some magic in store for you guys. Maurice, you know, wow, 20 years in nightlife. A little bit more. Started off in fabric. You would have recognised him in a few other staple pieces around London as well. Sketch, Maddox. Not forgetting Martinez, you know, and you know, look where you found yourself now. I mean, you know, he's been around a long time. You know, he's accumulated a lot of knowledge, a lot of contacts, and you're in a place now where you're launching your concierge company, and you know, we're going to learn a little bit more about like what the steps were to do that today. So, round of applause for Maurice, guys. Now, Charlotte, man, like, Charlotte's work really does speak to me. You know, when we met up the other day, I forgot I knew her from 10 years ago, right, from a different events company we won't speak about here. But her speciality is about ambiance and tone, right? Effectively, when you go into a place, you are seduced. You are experiencing something that you weren't experiencing a moment or two ago, and she does that by creating the best people in terms of performers, music artists, DJs, the whole lot. She does this in London. She does this in Ibiza. I don't know how you do it. You know, the amount of events you've just told me you've done this week, and Ibiza as well. I'm like, how do you manage that? But the other side to it as well is she's really tapping into the wellness as well, because you know she's a yogi at heart as well. So yeah, we're going to be speaking a bit about wellness. I mean, working in nightlife, it kind of like you need something going on, right? So round of applause for Charlotte, please. The birthday girl, Twigs. What can I say about Twigs? I mean, she's been a dear friend of mine for many years. You know, all of these people I've stumbled upon in nightlife. But you know, Twigs tells us she's an ex-raver. But please, she's an ex-raver, right? Still pretty tapped into that way of living, I guess. But yeah, what's really interesting is, you know, your whole, the way that you went into nightlife and all the things that you discovered, how you know, took on photography and become just the go-to person, you know, and I've seen her career grow, you know, like she's the go-to person to hire if you want your events to stand out. There's no question about that. But also it's how it's evolved now into, you know, the more sort of higher society, the, you know, the art events and all that. And I know you've got a really special event coming up. And you'll see the evidence of those photographs in due course, for sure. I can't say zero about that. But yes, so really interesting to hear from everyone today about you know, the journey everyone's been on and what we've learned, picked up on the way in terms of brand development. Oh, and not forgetting myself. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. My background is I'm from the dating world. Right, so in terms of branding, we're all a brand, right? We're all a brand. We've got to know our target audience, who we're trying to attract, and that's the game of business too. And I've been helping men for over 16 years better their life in all sorts of ways through coaching, events, and the other side to me is my drinks business as well. That's a recent venture there, Vinombra, which I've got some great examples I brought here today in terms of like how that inceptualized in terms of the name of the brand, the colors, the imagery, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, round of applause for the panel. So, each of us here have got brand identity, right? Whether it's ourselves or events. I want to go straight to you, Maurice, because you've had to freshly think about this. You know, you've really had to freshly think about this in terms of what do I want to put out there, what represents me, what represents the services and the target audience, the people I want to speak to. How did that thought process start that influenced the decisions that you made?
Kind of, I don't know, historically I've said about most of my career, everything's happened by default, not design. Nothing's been planned, everything's just kind of come to me organically, I suppose. And this is the first time I've sort of literally tried to, not necessarily regiment, but put it into like a tactile kind of format, in which case like, all my skill sets have been put into, used to, I'll call myself a fixer, not a concierge, by the way, because it sounds dodgy and I quite like it. And everyone's a concierge, really, seriously. So yeah, I'm a fixer, and essentially that's what I've been doing in nightlife for the last 20 odd years. You know, that's and it's been a case of not necessarily just giving people access into a nightclub to get a table, or whatever else. It's actually looking after, creating that bubble, that moment so that they're secure and they can also have a great time and that things are looked after. So it's taken, so coming out of nightlife, which I still, have my toes in there, but trying to have this whole new, not necessarily new image, but using different parts of things I'm capable of. I've taken some of that skill set and I've put it into what I've started doing naturally, which is looking after people going on holiday, particularly to Mykonos and to Ibiza, creating itineraries for them, building a team around that to make sure that it goes well. They just turn up and have a good time. Now and again, they'll have a hissy fit or change their mind. Just take it on board, roll with it, and make sure that they're looked after, and also make sure the team you're working with are happy as well. Because when they're happier, then they're going to produce better work, and that makes me look good. It keeps the customer happy. So, yeah. So in terms of branding, it's a matter of just being consistent, being myself, and bringing those skills to the table. As I say, in terms of
when it comes to choosing what to put out there to communicate to your audience, using the online tools that we have, what's going on there?
Well, the first thing I know that people don't even know, they're not employing a logo, they're employing a person. But I kind of really got into the whole logo thing and the website thing, and I know Twigs was telling me, pay someone 200 quid on Fiverr and they'll do it for you. And I was going, no, I've got to do it myself. So I drove myself a bit crazy for 4 weeks putting this all together in terms of the image and the colours and what I wanted to say. And, it's, to me, it's just part of the path. The pathway forward is to what I wanted people to see, and the vibe I wanted to put out there had to be coming from me directly. And it's like, I do music, so I kind of treat it in the same way. It's like I have to write this from the beginning, so people kind of get a thing. And I did my homework and looked at some other websites, some other people, and I quite frankly hated them all. Because seriously, with concierge, just like people with money know about planes, they know about cars, they know about beaches. They've seen all this before. You don't have to give them this glitzy thing. We're gonna change your life, because you're not changing anything. You're just giving them something. Let them know that as an individual, because obviously I have a good name from being around working in Mayfair for so many years. People know who I am, and they kind of equate me with a certain level of, I suppose, a level of clientele, really, or places, or venues, or exclusivity. So they kind of know that I'm in touch with that already. I don't need to send them photographs of a shiny car, and obviously doesn't belong to the people standing next to them. So yeah. So putting it out there in terms of social media, I'm Instagram. My Instagram is, at the moment, it's kind of sparse, but I want to make it about the journey rather than where I want to take people to. So as we grow, because I've only launched back in April properly. So as we get progressive, there'll be more imagery, but it's going to be the basically following the path which I'm following.
Okay, cool. What about you, Charlotte?
Thank you. So the name of my brand is LALA Productions, and I think so. The name LALA was because you can see it on my necklace, but my little brother couldn't say my name Charlotte when he was young, that just felt really authentic to me, and also I think it looks really good. The capital LA, it's simple, it's clean, and people are like, oh, what's that? But so that was originally the kind of name, and because that feels personal and authentic, but also like looks good, simple, clean lines, etc. Just that felt like good for me moving forwards. And then the look and the feel of the website and my social media is so I have 2 pages. So I have LALA Productions, which is all black and white, and that's my agency page, and that's all the bookings for resident DJs, musicians, artists, different performers, etc., for different high-end luxury brands and weddings and different events. And then I also have events that I run. So the events page is all different colours, flyers, etc. And what I do with that is collab with DJs and brands so that we can all share all these different coloured bits of art, and that's kind of like not all over, but it's more of a vast array of different flyers and different styles that all the different venues, artists, DJs, etc. that align with. And then my agency page, as I said, is all black and white, and for me that is just the way I think it. Message. So the black and white for me, it just feels really clean, really high end, and that's the message and the clients that I want to align my brand with. But also, it can. So I work with all different clients like Sushi Samba, Orange, the Ned, Greens, Mandarin Oriental, Golds. So if I had one colour, I felt that might stick in clients' minds. Whereas if I'm black and white, it's clean, it's to the point, and everyone can align with that colour palette.
Okay. Cool. How important is branding your website?
Well, my website.
What's the thought process behind decisions?
So I just paid someone on Fiverr to do it, really. No, I actually did some research because I wanted to sell my artworks. That was a big thing for me. And there's a couple of high-end artworks websites, galleries, and they had this amazing carousel that popped out and scrolled, and then you could actually see the artworks on the wall. So you could imagine your bougie apartment with the art on the wall. You could actually picture it. So I went onto Fiverr, and there was this really nice chap, and I gave him the brief, and he kind of thought he could do an off-the-peg job, and he quoted me, and then he sent me some stuff, and it wasn't what I wanted, and so he ended up spending loads of time building this bespoke carousel for me, which is really, really amazing. So that's how I did the branding of the website. In terms of my social media, it's all just my clients' work. That's how I started off. This year I'm doing a lot more content with myself in it. I'm also making myself a bit more of the brand, but we'll touch on that later. But it's more about my work speaking for itself. That was definitely my ethos at the beginning. I didn't really want to feature at all. I just wanted the people to see my work and book me based on that and the recommendations that I got.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question about how important is the word of mouth, the testimonials, the social proof, and what efforts are you putting in place to make that apparent?
Shall I carry on?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the beginning, I spent about £1,000 on Instagram ads, and I found it was a complete waste of money. But every business is different. So for me, I found that because I was looking mostly to work with DJs and musicians and people in the art world, I already had those connections. So the ads, even though I was tailoring it, it was still repeating to my existing audience, and I think it was quite irksome for them. It was just a bit annoying to keep seeing these ads pop up when they already follow me. So I think it's just a case of either fine-tuning that even further or maybe don't do ads. So then what I've decided is just to go on word of mouth, and it's really done me well, because a lot of the time I'm at events and parties and someone will say, oh, my mum's got her 60th birthday coming up, we've got 100 guests, and that's how I'll get work. It's from being on site, having my work shown from a previous event, and people going, oh, that is really good, and then booking me that way. So I don't do adverts anymore, but every business is different.
Yeah, so I think that is really important. So having worked in this industry for quite a long time, across all different venues, I just do get on with people. And so those people, not everyone, but the people that I do, not everyone, the people that I did get on with, we worked well together. We produced really great events together. You know, we did like long hours, late nights, etc., converse over things that worked, feedback, etc. And what I found when I started up my business was then they were like, oh, that's amazing. Actually, do you want to come work with us? I was like, great. So actually, pretty much the majority of the business that I have now is through you know, working with people, ex-colleagues, also recommendations. So my team, some of you are here, DJs and dancers and artists and musicians and stuff. We tend to have a really great working relationship, and they'll speak to wherever they might be working. And if, you know, a client is like, hey, we actually need someone to come and schedule the resident DJs, or we've got an event and we actually need a lineup, or we actually need an event, or whatever. And because a lot of the people I work with are actually friends now, because this industry is intense, so, you know, you get to know people really quite quickly, and they recommend me. And I just love that when that happens, because it just shows you that everyone's happy and that they like working with you. And, you know, recommendation is an incredible thing. It's a real compliment. So thanks to the people that have done that out there. Yeah, so I'd say that's my answer.
I was going to say just one small point. I was going to say, because obviously been thinking about this a lot coming up to this this panel, and just thinking that, to me, brand actually, I think the core essence of it is reputation, because it's when people, your brand precedes you before you actually meet clients, or either through recommendations or word of mouth, or people just kind of make inquiries to find out who organised something, and they get your name. So I think brand, yeah, logos, as I say, I really got really into doing that and doing that whole imagery. But I think bar that, it's literally word of mouth. It is reputation. It's being consistent. It's being committed. It's being a sort of calm factor in the room, particularly when it comes to events. You know, when things are going pear-shaped, you need to be the person that's got a handle on everything. So, and I think that's particularly, you juggle so much, well, we all juggle so much. I think the key core point of it is keeping a steady head on it, and then basically you'll get known for that, because if you're the calm person in the room whilst things are going tits up, but they walk out the end of the night with a happy memory, memories obviously being key to the whole thing, then you're on to a winner.
Yeah, I'll say my bit in terms of you know, what I do and everything under the branding umbrella. I mean, you know, before I went by myself coaching guys, I knew I wanted to go at a high end with it, right? Because that's the path I was on. You know, I grew up in Reading. Right? I ain't taking Reading with me. Like, I'm in London now. I'm living the London life, you know. So I wanted to create more of like an aspirational brand. What is that? You know, it's the colours, it's the fonts, it's the places that you go, it's the imagery you put out there. It's the whole shebang. I mean, I remember with a company I first started out doing what I do here in London. You know, we take the guys out and have them interact with women, right? And they had a thing every Saturday. They'd be taking the Tiger. I was like, you know what? I'm fed up with listening to Avicii, and you know, I just can't do it anymore. You know, they ain't on brand for me. So. You know, that just had to go. And I thought, yeah, where would I go? Where would the women that I would like to meet go? Because they're following me as a brand. So I started choosing all the venues and the environments, and that, you know, that kind of built it all up, you know. As I said, something I have brought with me today. We've got the scroller now. We were waiting on the scroll. So Vinombra is my drinks brand. Okay, it's a premium prosecco, and I'll break down. I mean, the marketing guys have done a fantastic job of conceptualizing this brand. Now, I'm just going to talk you through it now. So, Vinombra, vino, as we know, means wine. Ombra, it means shadow. So if you go to any Italian restaurant and ask for ombra, they know you mean you're asking for a bottle of prosecco. And the reason is because they used to, in St. Mark's Square, they used to like follow the shadow of the sun round to keep the produce cool on delivery. So that's our brand name. It's a play on word there. When you look at it, you know, I can't speak too much into this because it's not my area of expertise, but there's a whole bloody degree on spacing and fonts and all that kind of stuff. All I know is they've done a good job on that. But where the typography and all that kind of comes from, it would take an inspiration from the sort of old posters and stuff you'd see in the Venetian region. So that's where the inspiration comes from, the typeface. And again, if you're walking around Venice, again, this is the region, northern Italy is the region where Prosecco comes from. We're thinking about the label design now. We're thinking, well, most bottles, they have square labels, right? Rectangular labels. We got to do something that stands out. So in actual fact, the label design was inspired by the sort of archways that you would see in the architecture in the region, as well as the play on the stars and the moons. You already learned what the ombra means, the shadow of the sun. Then we started playing around with what we were going to do with the labels. And all this appears on the bottle. And then the colours, you got to talk to your audience. You got to speak the language they understand with the colours. The actual colour of the bottle itself, the purple colour, is actually inspired by the sort of Venetian sunsets that you would experience out there. I think we got your one up here as well, haven't we? Yeah, Charlotte. Yeah. So this is all your brand imagery. That Twigs has took all these photographs, by the way. No, I thought it was all of them.
A lot of them. That one. That
Do you want to talk us through that?
Well, this is the kind of LALA Presents, so the events page, which is obviously way more colourful. All different types of events, all different venues. You've got the Mandarin on there, Sushi Samba, the Ned, yeah. So it's all different DJs, different events, different types of music. So that's kind of like everything on there. And then it's the black and white.
This is your Insta page, right?
This is, yeah.
But even just the consistent feel of it. Do you know what I mean? The colour, the feel, the tone.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, right. So oh, sorry. I got to get it out while it's in my mouth. Okay, but quote unquote. So basically, when it came to doing the logo, because I had no idea about doing logos at all, and one guy called Martin Butterworth sent me a shed load to go through. Obviously, going Marshall world, Marshall being my last name, Marshall being the bringing together of clients and also the team looking after them. So that was the kind of thinking behind that. And the colours, I thought, as I said, I hate all the images and all the very slick stuff. So I thought I'd have a bit of fun and be a bit of a superhero. So I went down the kind of Superman path there. So that's why we have that kind of shape there. The colours, burgundy, that's about, sophistication, about lushness and things which are gorgeous. And black is about power. And this is not just about, there's no sort of political thing. This is actually no definition of it. Obviously, there's the maudlin side, but we're sticking to the positive side. And the yellow ochre, that's about sunshine, that's about warm skin, that's the sensuous feeling of being away on holiday or being at a really sexy event. So simple ideas, but I just thought that's kind of that was what the rest of it kind of emanated out of these colours, out of the feeling they gave me, and that's where the words came in. So the website had more pinks in there and some more yellows and stuff, but anything other than gold and green and all those kind of so-called classy colours, that was my thing on that one.
What are the ingredients to put a solid event together?
To me, there's no the only consistent part, particularly when it comes to brand and your name reputation, is basically being consistently, paying attention to detail, being committed, being calm, being involved. Because every event can be different, whether it's the location or whether it's a theme or whatever else. I think as an individual or as a company, what you're bringing to the table is Maurice arrived, or whoever it is has arrived, who you've employed, things are under control. So I think that's what makes it. As long as the client then has nothing to worry about, and they walk away with a happy memory, and I suppose at the end of it, you want people to walk away with a really good impression of what they've just been through, and that's kind of what it all boils down to, regardless of how many bits and bobs are going on. You want to know that they're calm. Behind scenes, everyone's working their butts off to make sure things happen, but looking calm while they do it. There's nothing worse than watching a team walk around frowning, looking like they're working. You know, which I've worked with people like that before. Who want to make you know that they're working. It's like, guys, calm it down. We're not saving lives here. You know, it's not the United Nations. It's a disco. Yeah. so yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so actually, same as you, that kind of the swan. Yes. So it's like on the outside, everyone's like, oh, she's so calm. But underneath, you're like, go, go, go. Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, obviously the logistics of finding the perfect venue, making sure the crowd is on point, making sure the music is on point, making sure there's enough entertainment but not too much, making sure the timings of the entertainment is there, making sure everyone knows the times of who's on and when, so that we're capturing all of those moments, so that we're getting, you know, we're making sure that people on socials are knowing about these events for the next time. And making sure that the team are happy as well, like as you said as well, you know, if the DJ's miserable, they're not going to be doing their best set, and then everyone's going to be, you know, not vibing off that energy. And it's like, you know, this is so, I'm going to say it, but so I've been called a vibe checker, because I like go into the room and I'm like, what's the vibe? And you always know if the vibe's off, and if the vibe's off, it's like, it was a good party, but just the vibe was off, and you just don't quite understand why. But if the vibe's on, you're like, oh my God, best party, ended up with all these random people at 6 o'clock in the morning, chatting, making my best mates, and you're like, yes, because the vibe was on. And then obviously before that, it's getting the flyers right, launching it at the right times, using the right music for the social media, posting on the right platforms, you know, collabing with the right people. So there's like so much around it all, but essentially it's just getting the right people in a room together and having a good time.
Yeah, okay. Well, what are your thoughts on that, Twigs?
Events. Sorry. Well, I feel like obviously it's the photography. I mean, you really need good photos. You need great photos that you can use in the future. So I'm doing a job this week, and I had I've got a 12-page PDF shot list, which is quite a lot, and I've had to break that down. But this is because they know what they want and how they can use that to promote next year's events. And a lot of the, certainly the high-end clients that I have, they will give me a shot list. Same even if I'm doing birthday parties, the first thing I do when I get there is I ask if there's a cake, because sometimes there isn't a cake, but usually there's a cake. And I always say, can I have a 10-minute warning, just in case I'm in the loo when you bring the cake out? I want to make sure I get it. And also I have to change some things on my camera to make sure I get that moment. So I think in terms of events, the main thing is to capture the right content. As Charlotte said, put it on the right platforms. Collaborations are key. I've been doing a lot of collaborations, particularly the last 2 or 3 years, and it's helped my career endlessly. I was on my own working in a silo before, and it's only through the collaborations that I meet new audiences and get my work seen increasingly. And also just, I think everyone benefits from collaborations, you know, tagging people, doing these collab posts now, all of these tools are there. So when you do an event, it's all about what you do after the event that cements the hard work that you've done and put in.
Yeah, okay, cool. I think for me, it's you know, it's hosting itself. You know, like if you are the host, it's actually getting round and putting yourself in front of the people that have bothered to turn up for you. Do you know what I mean? Like they've gave up a bloody Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever the night they gave up to attend your thing. And if you've got the social capabilities to be able to speak to people, then introduce other people to each other. You know, like make it memorable for them. Make them, you know, have the experience of meeting someone new for the first time. I think that's just an important aspect that I'm always aware of when I'm putting stuff together. But, you know, what I want to move on to next is I think it makes, because I've certainly had to do is I put events on, and we've had to keep trying a consistent feel from venue to venue. You know, your brand is it's a traveling circus, right? So, what are you guys? What are your ways of doing that?
I suppose the consistent thing between any event which I've either put together or I work on is the people who are invited to it, and I think it's it's the music, because music obviously is just integral to everything as far as I'm concerned, but the music, but it's also the fact is that, as I know, I've been around for donkeys. I know a shed load of people from so many different corners of London or from around town and Europe. So invariably, if I bring the party together, people do tend to, the next day it's like going, you had so many interesting people at your party last night. I hadn't met so-and-so. So I think, yeah, there could be consistency in terms of who's playing the music or what style of music is being played. But I think invariably with my parties, it is, I sort of like to say, you say that I'm an influencer before an influencer was even invented. I love to introduce people to other people. I will be in a room. If I see someone who should be talking to someone else, I won't wait for them to meet naturally. I will literally pull someone out of a conversation. Excuse me, a bit rude, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'll pull them into another conversation because I can see it and I get it. Probably done myself out of a lot of money for introduction fees and that one, but never mind. But I just can't. I kind of see it happening, and I can't. It may not. I don't have a 100% track record on it, but it's a pretty good record to date. Introducing people, and I think to me, it's it is that variety is the spice of life, and it's a variety of people, and and thank goodness I do know Shed Load, so I can consistently do that, and regardless if it's a dinner party I'm doing, if it's a party of 200 people. Or whatever, and invariably, if it's a bigger venue, I meet someone else there who I know already and drag them into the conversation. So yeah.
I think from my side, it would be there's a music brief generally that I kind of adhere to. So like house, disco house, Afro house, that kind of vibe, depending on where we're doing the event, but usually along those lines. And then always some kind of exciting, whether it be a performer or a musician or something exciting about the event. So it's not just like an event where, everyone's kind of doing the same kind of thing. And for everyone to feel comfortable and included and like have a good time. So it's not too cliquey, it's not the same types of people always. It's like somewhere where everyone can come and express themselves and have a dance and meet new people and feel that they are welcome. So I'd say that's a really important thing from my LALA Presents side of the business. I think that's it for me.
Well, how do you keep it consistent with your delivery or?
Oh, well, I always, I kind of, depends how much brief I've had from the client, but in general, I kind of have a look and a feel to the photos. Like, I don't just do a one-stop shop for all of my edits. So, say with Sushi Samba, the way that I shot that was quite orangey and warm, and you could look at one of the photos and know immediately that's a Sushi Samba photo. Birthdays, I tend to keep them quite neutral. I do a kind of paparazzi style look as well, which is very clean, evening standard vibes, she wore this and they ate that kind of vibes. Just depends what it is and how I feel it suits the environment,
I guess for me, when it comes to mind where I'm doing events internationally, it's getting the information on the ground. London, I know my landscape. Maybe LA, I know my landscape. Miami, I know my landscape. There might be just some site, out of the box place I got to go to, and I need venues. So I remember something I did. I landed in one place, and I went to, and again, this is about knowing your target market and where your audience is. And what I've learned in London is that a lot of nightclubs, they do brand partnerships with high-end brands. So I made sure I stayed in a nice hotel with a concierge desk. I wanted to utilize the concierge desk. And then I went to like the Pradas, the Burberrys, the Louis Vuittons, and I just went to the sales assistants and was like, where do you go to party? Like, where is the place? And then I got the data of like 3 or 4 places. Went back to the concierge desk and like, get me a table here. And getting a table at a club, it's not like a look at me campaign. It's who's that person there that I can speak to that knows what's going on for the rest of the week, or got the information around town. And that's how I would if I don't know anyone, that's how I'd get the information and the contacts to keep the brand consistent in new cities and towns, or leverage your contacts here, Let's move on then to branding yourself. I think it's interesting, isn't it? If we think about like the last decade, we all have publishing tools at our fingertips. You know, publishing tools that we never had before. If you looked at like the celebrity before then, they all had access to seducing you through their publisher. You know, you publicist. Yeah, every one of us in this room can become a brand now. My point is, in terms of like your choice on making that decision, yeah. What have you done? What have you done with that, and how does that turn up in the business world for you now? Brand yourself.
Branding myself. I branded a business. I don't know about branding myself. I think just by nature of the path I've followed in life, basically, I've been a bit of a brand. It's taken me a long time to realise I actually am a bit of a brand already, and that's not being facetious or whatever else. It's just that I know that I've got a personality. I know that I've got a look. I know that I interact. I love people, the majority of them. You know, I love people, so I do get on with people incredibly well. So, you know, and I can be in a room, start a conversation. I do know really talented people who DJ amazingly well. I know people who design clothing really well. I know people, lots of creatives, as well as people from the financial world. So in terms of branding, I suppose in a way, I'm just an incredibly sociable man, and that's what it's been since I was 17. You know, so it's and that is, you know, thankfully melded it into a career. You know, either working in nightclubs or, as I say, now doing my fixers situation. You know, people know that through my experiences, you know, I do know what I'm talking about. And as I said, you know, the reputation thing, harking back to the reputation thing, the people have heard about me, and I live up to what people said about me. Then that's kind of how I can say just naturally it's organic. Because I mean, a lot of the time it's organic. You know, I've done a logo, yeah, I've done a website, fantastic. I love the whole creative process, but at the end of the day, it's kind of about me and what I bring to the table, and that's, you know, so.
Yeah, so this is something that I didn't really think about for a long time when I was working at the ministry and then at various other places. And then when I started working at Sushi Samba and we started Casa de Samba, it just got so big. And then all of a sudden I was like, it's the Sushi Samba girl. Basically, so they were like, we want tables, we want guest lists, we want this, we want that, can you get me in, da-da-da. And before that, I was like, kind of like always behind the scenes. And still am behind the scenes, you know, it's the DJ, it's the dancers, it's whoever is out there, which I'm quite comfortable with being behind the scenes. So then when people started to like contact me and go on my personal page, I was like, oh, okay, this is a completely different thing now. And I guess, you know, I haven't really changed in the way that I've branded myself. I've, you know, kind of, my personal page is just like holiday snaps and stuff like that. But the way I communicate with people, and especially, you know, within the business, but not just in the business, you know, when I'm going out and having chats with anyone and DJs and friends and clients, etc. It's just about being authentic and, you know, knowing what I do, asking questions that might seem stupid, asking for feedback. And being okay with, you know, if the feedback isn't great, and then, you know, coming back and working on that, and just wanting to be authentic in the way I communicate and the way that I am. And I think that's become my personal brand. I don't think, for me, it's about putting selfies up every day of like what I'm wearing. It's more about the way that I communicate with people, the way I communicate with my team, the way I communicate through the brand and with my clients. So, yeah.
Yeah, good answer. Solid.
So I think branding yourself is, as a photographer, becoming increasingly important. I mean, everyone knows who Dave Bennett is, you know, and I think that it becomes, even if you, I started just wanting to be behind the camera and not really featured at all, to be honest. But what I've learned is it's such a competitive space that increasingly, to stand out, I've needed to be Twiggles. You know, my real name's Sally Twig. It's very boring. Everyone thinks I'm a lot older when they see my name as well. But it's, you know, I'm Twiggles now for showbiz purposes, because that name will carry me much further than my real name. So branding yourself is maybe even incorporating your name into a business name. It's featuring yourself a bit more. Obviously, there's different approaches to things. So Charlotte's approach is different to mine. But as a photographer, I think it's so much more competitive. There's so many, everyone's got a camera these days. Like, how my work is excellent, but also people want to know that I'm coming to an event. I've actually been asked before if I'm sending someone else, like a minion, and I'm like, no, it's just me. Which I was quite flattered that they thought I would send somebody else after they booked me. So that was quite cool. But this year I've definitely been branding myself a lot more by featuring myself on YouTube, doing YouTube shorts, doing more educational stuff, doing these panels, and just putting myself out there a bit more. Also, I do the artworks, which I started doing exhibitions about 3 years ago. I'm not doing them very often because it's a lot, but again, people are buying artworks based on the fact that I took that picture probably more than the picture itself, in theory. So it's part and parcel of it, and I'm embracing it and I'm growing it. So let's see what happens with that. But it is quite nerve-wracking putting myself in front of the camera. It's not something that I thought of when I started in 2018.
I mean, with me, I mean, it's, you know, I've created a lifestyle brand through helping guys with confidence, right? And so I've really had to live that. You know, I've really had to live that and show up as that guy all the time. There's a lot of pressure, you know. And you kind of, you know, you don't say you become a character, but you become a little bit exaggerated version of yourself at times, you know. So I guess, yeah, it kind of, I mean, my mind's moving on to like the wellness aspect after this, because I think, you know, there's implications of being the brand in, you know, that capacity, especially in nightlife environments, and how that affects like your personal relationships and all this kind of stuff. So I'd love to speak into that in a second. But something that's on my mind right now is the opportunities that have come by being the brand. I wouldn't have Vinombra on the table if I didn't have a personal brand. Like, that wouldn't be. So I definitely have a lot of incoming opportunity because I've been able to amplify my voice and have a stage. So I just want to throw that at you guys as well. You're thinking about that right now. What opportunities have come to you through your brand amplification?
So this is going to go back to pre-Marshall World. I'd say, obviously, for years I was kind of equated to high-end clubs, particularly ones which were starting when we started Sketch, started Cuckoo, started Maddox, the Green Room there, and so kind of got associated with that. So in a way, kind of my name started to have its own kind of provenance. I think the same, because it was always associated with that level of operation. And through that, I mean, that's one reason why, you know, I got the whole Mykonos hookup, you know, because they'd heard about me, they sought me out, and they basically wanted to tap into my database. But they knew that I was kind of highly regarded, and that I knew a share load of people. And obviously during the summer months, those people were not in London, they were in Mykonos or in Ibiza or whatever else. So that's, you know, obviously that's going back now. A lot of people are doing the same thing now. Obviously, I was fortunate enough to be, you know, part with Scorpios, you know, which is the most amazing venue on the island, and helping to build that, you know. So I was part of the early crew on that, putting that together. So that came directly out of them knowing who Maurice was, you know. And, you know, I didn't go looking for it; it came looking for me, you know. So I think that's one of those things. So. Great, yeah. So that's.
Yeah, similar really. I think pretty much every single client I work with and every venue that I do events at has come through. I mean, stuff like weddings and stuff comes through recommendations, and them seeing, you know, bride seeing pianist at a venue and, you know, finding out my details. But apart from that, and the relationships I've built over time, which is, you know, going back to the brand, which is the communication, etc., on my side anyway. Yeah, so I think pretty much everything at the moment.
Amazing. Yeah.
As I've known ever since I started freelancing, you're only as good as your last job. So you have to be excellent all the time. That's what I think about building your own brand and the opportunities that come to you. If you don't do a good job, then it's just not good vibes, you know. It's all about people knowing about your reputation and getting work through, you know, being bankable.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, let's segue into the wellness thing then. I mentioned there about, how this kind of lifestyle and exposure to it can certainly take its toll on you. So, yeah, what are some things that maybe some of you guys do to circumvent, the impact on that?
Me. Well, there was once upon a time. No, I suppose it's just the norms. I mean, it just when you're working nighttime, particularly if it's a consistent thing, like if you're doing constant events, if you're working back in the day when I was in nightclubs umpteen times a week, the norm was this nocturnal lifestyle. And yeah, it can take its toll. Suddenly you don't notice it. You get carried away with with living the dream. You kind of don't notice it. Then you suddenly think, okay, some things are not working. You're not functioning right, or you're not recovering well, or whatever else. So, yeah, just the basic things. Abstinence is an amazing thing. Just you don't have to have that tequila shot. You don't have to have a glass of exactly, yeah, exactly. Like I used to be met. I remember I had one point. When I used to arrive at work, by the time I put my jacket in the office, the barman would have my 2 espresso martinis ready for me on the bar, because that's how I'd start the evening. Before I went downstairs to put my radio on, even before I was like, no, I'll have 2 double espressos. Now I'm up to speed. That was it. But then just stopped doing that. But then again, it was kind of, also because, part of my story is that obviously I was a mature student, so I started doing a bachelor's and doing a master's in music. And at that point, trying to couple that with doing the nocturnal lifestyle was pretty much impossible if I was still kept doing tequila shots and the champagne. But then I had to work stone cold sober when everyone else around me was most certainly not. And that was a challenge in itself. No, literally, it took me a couple of months to kind of get up to speed with that, work out how I could do it. Yeah. But that was me looking after myself. And I suppose in the way I used going down that academic path, because obviously I had to keep a clear head to do what I was doing. Yeah. And there's no way I was giving up my job, so I had to find a way through it. And that to me was abstinence and sleep and exercise, all those things, just which weren't happening before, put it that way. Okay.
Yeah, so I think similar, I started in this world just thinking I was invincible, could go out. I was in my 20s, so I kind of was in a way. You could just bounce back. And, went out loads, partied loads, had a great time, met loads of great people. But then, started to get into my 30s. I was like, this hurts a bit more the next day. And I think it's just like slowing down, looking after your body, like listening to your body when it says, I'm not feeling great. You're getting a cold or something. It's like you probably need some more nutrients, some more sleep, some more water. So I have a routine now that I stick to pretty much every day, and it's moving my body, breath work, meditation, red light therapy. Highly recommend for night owls.
Is that one of the masks?
Yeah, the red light is meant to be getting to your circadian rhythm. And I think the really important thing for me that I've now noticed is that, so you can have that routine, but then sometimes you just go, do you know what, I'm having a really good time and I want to stay out till 4 o'clock in the morning with my friends after this event, but then not waking up the next day and like beating yourself up, making yourself feel guilty. Do the red light therapy, even if it is when you wake up at midday, like still order some takeaway, but make it a healthy takeaway. Try and get out in the afternoon and have a walk, rather than being like, that's it, everything's ruined, can't get back to that routine again, so I'll just go out and drink again. Like having that balance and being able to get back to where you need to be and not like making yourself feel so guilty. So like enjoying the good times, but also coming back to the health and routine when you can.
Forgive yourself quickly.
For sure, yeah.
For me, my job's very physical, and I went through a stage of having like shoulder injuries and things that just kind of incapacitated me. Also made me shoot in a way that I didn't really want to. So I started going to CrossFit. It's not an advert, but and I absolutely love it, and it's really helped me with my physical strength. More recently this year, I kind of didn't have a routine, and being freelance and doing unsociable hours, I felt some days I'd wake up and I'd just transfer myself to the sofa. Other days I'd be flat out. And I've decided to, only like a month ago, is to set up myself with a routine, which includes meditation in the morning and just making, someone says, micromanaging myself, or a micro task list, so that I just decide what I need to do that day and stop looking like 6 weeks ahead and getting overwhelmed and sometimes not doing anything. So I've just shortened my work down to what I actually need to do. Obviously, there's a bigger picture, but just making it more bite-sized and manageable and keeping my fitness up and eating healthily.
Yeah, I mean, I think my wellness plan is try to make like keep a consistent going to the gym, and forgive myself if I can't because of the work commitments. But look, I'm just going to have a blowout at some point. Like it's just that's part of my wellness program. Like it's like whoever I'm with, it's like, look, darling, like this is what it's gonna be. Just being honest. But I think where I've really suffered is burnout. And it's interesting where that sort of comes from. I think I've seen, I've always seen my father work very hard, and if that's what you've always seen, then that's all you know. And I think I put myself in hospital a few years ago I've got this program I do 7 days and 7 nights with a client. We're out every night. It's taxing, and I did 3 of them in a row, and then flew over to a different country, met my girlfriend over there, organized the birthday party, flew back. I thought I was having a heart attack, but it was just all the neurology. It was just way overdoing it, and it took me that moment to realize that when you look at your calendar and you've got people that want your time, you've got to block out a meeting for yourself. Because if you don't see that meeting in the calendar, you're going to give it to someone else. And then before you know it, half the year's gone. You haven't seen your family. You haven't seen your loved ones. Your body's screaming like, Jesus, calm down, mate. And so that was something that I've sort of had some takeaway a few years ago, and it's something I'm a bit more kinder to myself on now. How do you guys think your work's affected your personal relationships?
Mine are fine.
Fine, mate. Yeah.
Personal relationship depends what you mean by family or just.
Well, as I just mentioned there, like I was sacrificing my time for a lot of my clients, so I'm not seeing my family. I'm not seeing my partner.
Yeah, I think
all this kind of stuff.
I think before I'd prioritise going out before family historically, but in the last I'd say the last decade or so, that's definitely changed. I'll definitely prioritise. If it's a Sunday meeting with my family doing a barbecue, I'll prioritise that over going someplace else. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Those small hookups, they mean a lot. Those things you talk about, those are the memories, those things you put together. Prior to that, it would have been like, I'd probably been still at that random house party someplace till mid Sunday afternoon and think, okay, you need to get some sleep. That's just nature of it. That's no surprise to anyone. Everyone does that at some point, I think. So just in personal relationships, I did fall out with some friends way back who didn't really understand the club lifestyle. These are the long-standing friends, people I've known since like my teens, and I still had them as good friends up until mid-20s, whatever else, and they didn't really quite understand the whole club world. And not there was much to understand. It's just I work late at night. That's what it boiled down to. But they sort of thought I was buying into. Well, I suppose I did buy into it because it became a career, but they didn't really couldn't equate it to with their lifestyles. So that did it. So yeah, a few people fell by the wayside, but a shed load more walked in.
I think when you first start out, you just have to say yes to everything, and you do kind of sacrifice friendships, and not that you're not friends with them anymore, but that time with friends and family, and you just have to absolutely go for it because it's competitive, and if you're going to make it, you've just got to do everything that you can. But then I think once you've got a reputation and you're established and you've got your clients, everything's kind of running smoothly, you don't have to be at everything, and then you can start prioritizing family time and relationships and that kind of thing. And I think your close people will know, but when you're launching a business, you're not going to be around as often as you were before. But then when things start settling down and everything starts kind of moving and shifting and everyone's happy, then you're going to be at the barbecues and the baby showers and the weddings and all of that stuff. And yeah, the close people get it. And also they're rooting for you, going, come on, it's all good. Like, we'll see you whenever, or we'll come to your event and support you. So, yeah.
I think that, as you say at the beginning, it's you're flat out and kind of saying yes to everything, and in photography sense as well, doing a lot of work for free just to get your name out there. But then as time progresses, my work-life balance is a lot better. I get to see my friends a lot more, and in general, taking time off is always a bit difficult for me. I just went on holiday with my mum, and I was like, oh, it's over a bank holiday. It's like, Mom, but it's her birthday, so I kind of. But you know, you do kind of think about the revenue that you're losing. That's difficult when, for me, I'm freelance and there's only me. There's no one else I can get in place. So yeah, I mean, it's still you know, a bit of a flashpoint sometimes, but I'm getting better at it.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that basically wraps the questions up. You know, what did you guys get out of that? I mean, what are the biggest takeaways from what was shared?
When you embrace your power, we all see you and you see your brand, and we're all here because of you.
Thank you. So I actually do put wellness events on as well. And a lot of the people that come to the parties come to the wellness events. So there's definitely a 360 approach there. Absolutely.
I felt it, they were, like I said before, I think it was by default, not design. Actually before Fabric, I worked at a place called 41 Beak Street, which is now Polpo, so it's on Beak Street. I go there now, I see the bar, I actually carried that bar in there. It broke my back, and it's still there long after I've gone. And literally, but basically, the reason I fell into it was I was doing live music nights before. As I said, I was doing music, so I was bringing singers and musicians together, and I was doing that dotted around London, around Battersea. And anyway, one of the guys who used to help me do that get me spots there, he was actually managing the band I was with at the time. And then he bought basically 41 Beak Street. So I went there to pitch in to help out for a few weeks. That was the original plan. So it was for me an accident. It wasn't. I didn't mean to do it, but I ended up falling into hospitality and stuck. You know.
What did you do your MA in?
Record production.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that your underlying passion?
That's the passion. That's of course, yeah.
So is this funding that passion?
I'm not buying any more equipment, man. Seriously, I've got so much already. No, it funded it. Yeah, so no, I have a studio. I don't have a living room. I have a studio in my house. So.
And are you working with young students from?
At the moment, I graduated last January. But I've past January, graduated in July. At the moment, I'm just working with people I know, just remotely.
How do you keep the balance of not waking up and thinking, oh no, I'm waking up as a brand. I'm not waking up as Johnny Cassell or Charlotte Webb or Maurice Marshall or Twiggles. I'm waking up as the brand I set to myself, like internally. Like, how do you stop yourself from breaching that? Like, is there any self-boundaries that you set mentally, or is it just like a case of?
Yeah, no, for me, I mean, you know, helping guys with women, you got to have a girlfriend. Where's your girlfriend, dude? You know, so I think, you know, whenever it was coming to like the poetic end of something, you know, I was like, oh, okay, you know, you go over the grievance, and I was very quick to jump into another one, you know, and yeah, part of it could just been the attachment style that I have, but also I think there's an underlying thing of like, well, I need to have someone by my side, you know. So I become aware of that, and I broke a pattern a few years ago where I was like, the relationship I just need is for myself. You know, it doesn't matter about like just because it's on brand. You know, I just need to like have a nice relationship with myself, take time, and so that's where I feel like I separated the idea of the brand and myself. You know, for your own well-being. So that's a really great question.
Yeah, I think that's has self-awareness and like knowing that one ends and the other one starts, and also having other passions and not just only hanging out with DJs, or not just, you know, having passions that are outside of that. So the wellness stuff and, you know, journaling or meditation or something that's like a quiet time for you where you can connect with yourself rather than just all the noise externally, because the noise is great and it's fun and it's intense, and sometimes you can become that, and then that is when, you know, you're not giving yourself that time to actually find yourself and that kind of inner calm. And I find that when you have the inner calm, you're better in the chaos than if you just are the chaos.
You may not know this, but I've become a karaoke singer, and I've been sitting on this all night.
Oh, I got mics up in.
I just found a new hobby. I'm not going to sing now. I need my live band. I need a live band, 2 guitarists, a drummer. But I've really enjoyed singing, and a smoke machine. It's called Haze, actually. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's something that I've just started doing this year in my free time, and I'm not particularly good, but it's just something that's fun and that's for me. It's not related to my work, and a new avenue. So I think it's good just to like tap into new things, new hobbies, new ventures that aren't to do with photography.
I wanted to ask if there were any other sort of useful tools that you've been using in terms of marketing your brand.
Personally, I just say there again, it is the word of mouth thing. It literally like even the invitation to today. I didn't stick it on my Instagram. I sent out loads of personal interview invites because I think sometimes the more focused things work better for me. And people. I think people don't prefer it when you actually know it's a direct invitation. They've got a direct. It makes it simple as a WhatsApp broadcast group, but it's coming from my phone straight to them. It's not coming through Insta or whatever else. It's not a sales pitch. It's saying, I would really like for you to be here.
So you don't get more clients through football on your
Well,
website?
no, not at the moment. The website's only fresh, so I'll wait and see if they like my Superman logo. But quite frankly, exactly. But to date, it's either been through clients themselves recommending me, or people I've worked with. Like I've had some great introductions to like the team. So like the security guards I work with, they have other clients, and they brought me into other jobs which they're doing as well. So that way it's been an organic kind of step across into people on the same level, but fantastic introductions. And there again, like I said to you before, the whole reputation thing. Reputation precedes you. So therefore, you're walking into a very positive situation. You just got to live up to that and follow it through. To me, to date has been mainly work, but I look forward to people cold calling me and I'll see how that goes.
I've got some stuff. Yeah, I've. That is definitely the most powerful, and it's so nice when you get that. But you also have to grow, and you're not just going to know everyone in the world. So I think things like flyers. I mean, you've not had much luck with Insta ads. I have with events. Also, aligning your brand with other brands that are going to enhance your brand and get the word out there. So, for instance, for me, like I'm a small agency, but I work with the Mandarin in Mayfair, Sushi Samba, the Ned, etc. So if people see my brand aligned with that brand, and members and people that come to the event, they're like, oh, LALA Productions. And then if I do a targeted ad, then they keep seeing that. So it's like, oh, that's exactly, oh, that's something I want to look out for. So I'd say stuff like that. And then obviously if you're, I don't know what it is that you're marketing, but if for me, for instance, if I'm marketing an event, I want to align with the DJs that I know they've got a crowd that I also want them to see with my events. So we do collab posts, ask them to share it on their story, etc. So and that may not bring 100 people, but you can't use that to fill the event, but it's spreading the word. People are seeing it, it's repetition, etc. And then people are getting used to what your brand is about and the message behind it.
Johnny actually showed me Google, so I've set up a Google page. Not, he didn't. Yeah, that came out wrong. No, Google Business. So you go through the maps and you put yourself on there, but I didn't know what to really do with it. And then somehow, you'll have to explain it, Johnny, but he found out what people are searching for with photography. And the main thing that people are looking for is family portraits. It gets the highest amount of searches, which I didn't know. And I've been trying to get a family to do photos with me, which I can use the pictures to advertise. So that I did try and reach out for that. But, there's ways of finding out what people are searching for on Google and using that information and then building that into your website. Is it called API or something? SEI. That's it. Well, I don't know. What's API then? MFI. But there's ways of using internet search keywords, and then you can position your business from that. But don't ask me how.
What's your business?
It's a community interest company, and it's a theatre company.
That's nice. So for me, it's about reverse engineering the search. I'm thinking, what is someone typing in to find my business, or what are they typing in to be interested in that thing? So for me, it's like how to get a girlfriend, right? Someone's typing that in, and I'm creating content on that, and that's how they're going to find me. And I would have a whole sort of content creation campaign around what those search terms are: written form, blogs, YouTube videos. You know, you could have like the stars of the theatre, you know, talking about whatever it is. And, you know, that's where I'd go with it.
Two things. Can I ask all of you guys? First things first. How do you react to when you're building your brand to setbacks, to an event that doesn't go well, or something that didn't go according to plan, or something you were talking, Charlotte, about kind of sort of trying to get feedback from one and making sure you utilize that because the high level.
The vibe checker.
Keep that with people that you hire to come and work on your
The vibe checker. So one of the things that I really wanted to do when I first started my company was just work with really nice people that are good at their jobs, just no dicks basically, because I've worked with loads of them and I just didn't want that moving forwards. Yeah.
What's your method of changing the vibe then?
Of changing the vibe. Or setting the vibe. Oh, so if it's bad on an event, we'll find out what the issue is, and then speak to if it's a music thing, then speak to the person with respect and being polite, not like this is awful, turn it off. It's like, hey, can we have a chat, etc., all good, blah blah blah. Can we try this? Can we try that? And a nice conversation rather than just barking orders. And then when things go wrong, it's just feedback, it's growth. It's an opportunity for growth. It's not, it's really hard when you are the brand to not take things personally, because it is personal, because it's like, oh my God, this is my thing, it's my baby. So when things go wrong, you can either be really like hurt by that, or you can go, well, this is an opportunity for growth. And what I found so far in this journey is that those opportunities for growth have actually led to more doors being open, because it's the way you deal with it. If you're like, no, defensive, can't deal with it, or if you're like, yeah, let's talk about it, let's see where we can improve, etc., then the client's like, great, let's talk more. And then all of a sudden the door opens more, you get more business, etc., and then you get things right, and then you go on to do that with other clients, etc. So yeah.
I agree with everything you just said. I just say, and that's taking on board what you just said, and just thinking, what I was thinking earlier on about remaining calm, committed, and and bringing just that sense of solidity, I suppose, really, because things do go wrong with events sometimes. It's just sod's law. Someone won't turn up. Who you need to turn up on time. Exactly. The point of fact, you don't take it personally. You contextualize it, and you put it, and you just think, okay, why did that happen? It happened, but it's how you smooth it over. And like I said, you remain calm. You don't run around like a headless chicken going, oh my God, there's no DJ. You work it out somehow. DJ will turn up without a cartridge to the record player, and there's stuff like that. You just take it on board, and that's what people they pay you for in the end, because you are smart enough to work the fixer. There you go. You see a way left of centre to get round it or to sort it out.
All right, man. Let's wrap this up. But guys.
One more. This gentleman here wants to ask one.
Look, we got to first of all thank Karma Sanctum for giving us wonderful space today. So thank you, Karma Sanctum, the guys that scored us.
Thank you, Ogan.
And
thank you all for turning up. Seriously.
Thank you. Yes, but also they do have a members club here. If you want to get plugged in and experience the benefits of it, they've like 20% off their menus, and you get plugged into all their events. Do speak to them at the reception. And they'll go through the application process with it. If there's anyone here you want to keep in contact on the stage, how can they find out about us?
Ask me.
Ask.
If not, marshall.world. That's my email address.
There you go.
Marshall.world.
Charlotte?
Productions on Instagram. LALA Productions __. I'll show you after this. Okay. Have a chat with you. See you far.
And I am Twiggles. Yes, on all platforms.
Yeah,
Twiggles _ UK.
Yeah, Instagram is Marshall_world.
And come and speak to me or on my website, johnnycassell.com. But if you're interested in drinking this lovely stuff, it's at the back of the bar right now. So thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stick around for the party. It's Twiggles' birthday.
Do you know the Queen's English?